Hi, good afternoon, folks. It's Richard Jones from RIA here. I'm just watching the number of attendees, and we're just going to chill with it for a few seconds until we've got the great majority of our expected attendees logging in. Just a few moments early at the moment. Okay, let's make a start. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the sunshine like we have here in Gloucestershire. RIA's Gloucestershire speaking from. Welcome to RIA's Unlocking Innovation series. This should have been a one-day event based in Leeds and as part of the Leeds Digital Festival. So welcome to all of our delegates from Leeds Digital Festival. And we decided under the situation to switch this into being a series of 5 webinars, an hour each, one each day this week. Yesterday we heard about working in rail for the first time. We heard from some examples of companies who are making a real success of that. Today we're going to cover better journeys for passengers. Tomorrow we're going to cover rail freight and how we can improve rail freight using data-based systems. Thursday we're going to look at implementing mobility as a service in rail. And on Friday we're going to go back to that focus on Leeds again and looking at building a better transport system for Leeds. We'll be doing that with West Yorkshire Combined Authority, so really keeping to the spirit of the Leeds Digital Festival event that we wanted to do in the first place. Most of you will know who RIA is, but just a word to say that RIA is the trade association for suppliers to the rail industry. Our members cover supply to the whole rail system. They range from global corporations to very smallest startups and SMEs, more than 300 organisations in total, but more than 60% of those are SMEs. And like any trade association, we're able to do the things that members are not easily able to do alone. Unlocking innovation, well, it's a RIA brand. These events are intended to highlight to suppliers the challenges that we have in our industry, and our first speaker today is going to cover that. They're intended to share resources which are there to help suppliers innovate. And our second speaker is going to cover that very valuable resource actually here in passenger data. They're also intended to give SMEs the chance to pitch their innovative approaches. And today we're going to hear from 3 real innovators, maybe people who know, maybe people you haven't heard of before, but they're selected from quite a large number of applicants on the quality of the ideas, which is what matters. Now, normally we would allow SMEs to exhibit their work and we'd have space for networking. We can't do that in a webinar, but we will have a Q&A session at the end, and actually a short one for Claire, our first speaker, because she has to leave for a while. And the idea of the whole thing is that we're creating new supply chains and refreshing existing ones. So let's get on with our first speaker. Our first speaker is representing LNER, London North Eastern Railway, the train operator for East Coast and London North East. And Claire Cardozi, who's head of digital decisioning, is going to give us a chat through what she sees as the issues that are there in front of train operators as far as passenger information goes. So over to you, Claire. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be speaking to you all on these strange circumstances from my home. So, digital journeys and unlocking innovation. So, as mentioned, I work for London North Eastern Railway, and we are the train operator that runs out of London King's Cross all the way up the East Coast, up to Inverness. And this is our beautiful route that we run along. The last year for us has been a really transformative year of launching our new train fleet, our LNER Azumas, that are produced in collaboration with Hitachi and assembled in the northeast of England, so a local production facility on our route, and we're in the process of rolling this out across the whole of our train route. along with rolling out a new physical train, becomes the expectation to provide a really transformative experience for our customers, both when they are on the train and also the digital experience that they have from LNER. One of the things that's really important for us at this time is understanding our customers, understanding what we're doing well, what we could improve, what's working well for certain types of customers, and what do people really need from us to feel comfortable and confident to travel by rail, whatever their requirements, be it traveling for leisure, for business, on their own, with families. What do people need and how can we provide that to them? And in these times of uncertainty, where our new normal is going to be different to how we've operated historically, it's even more important for us to be thinking about how we can make customers feel confident to travel by rail. We have various ways that we understand our customers. So we have our version of Net Promoter Score, which we call Net Advocacy Score. And these surveys are being sent out every single day to enable us to temperature check what's working well for our customers and where we could improve. We do social listening, we analyse the data that's coming in through our contact centre, and we have various other panels and groups that we use to keep our fingers on the pulse in terms of what's working well for our customers and where we can improve the experience for them. We have a huge amount of data in our business. We are running lots of train services out of lots of stations up and down the country. So the number of passengers that we carry means we have a lot of data, but that varies massively depending on where that customer has bought the ticket and how much accessibility we have to our customers. One of the key priorities for my team and I is how we can deliver in the moment personalisation. What can we do that goes above and beyond the standard experience that customers expect from rail? For us as a long distance operator, it is slightly different to some of the more shorter distance commuter services. People have high expectations when they take out a long distance journey, and we need to make sure that we are providing an experience that can compete with the likes of the airlines, the comfort of people's own cars. How can we provide them the confidence to want to travel by rail and want to travel with London North Eastern Railway? We set up a new digital and innovation department this time last year, and our purpose is to put heart into every digital journey by empowering everyone through technology. The purpose of my team, our digital decisioning team, is enabling in the moment, intelligent, data-driven decisions to create a richer experience for all. And when we talk about a richer experience for all, that's for our customers, but also our people, our staff. How can we be utilising smart data in the moment, real time where appropriate, near real time where it's not required in real time, to make the experience more consistent and a higher level customer experience? One of the products that we've launched in the past year is what we call LNER Assistant. This is us ingesting data from as many different sources as possible to be able to provide in the moment personalised communications to our customers. This is through app push, through mobile, SMS and Facebook Messenger. And we're able to keep customers updated on if their train has been delayed, if it's cancelled, letting them know about their platform, if their platform changes, what service is like on board, if we've got weather warnings, if we've got general delays. And we're continually adding use cases, some of which are shown here on the screen, to be able to help customers feel confident about what's happening in the moment and enabling them to be empowered with information to make decisions by letting people know in advance if their platform's changed, if their train's got an expected delay. How can they make the most of their time and their decision making based on the data that we already hold within the railway industry? This for us has been a step forward in the feedback that we've received from our customers. We've positively seen the impact this has on people's confidence and their positive feeling, even when things do go wrong. Running a train service with as many trains as we do and as many uncontrollables like the various storms we've seen previously, it's really difficult to keep us running on 100% on-time service. But when things go wrong, the things customers want is clear information that enables them to make decisions about their journey. And this is taking us a step forward in reaching out to customers in the moment, in the channel that works best for them, to provide personalised information about the journey that they've booked with us. We're continuing to grow our ambition for LNER Assistant and looking at what other channels can we use in the moment to help our customers. Things like voice and chatbots and how they can evolve so that we have one source of the truth based on the data that we hold within the rail industry. And we're using that one source of the truth data to push information out to customers and start to create more of a two-way in the moment experience. One of our huge challenges, as I mentioned earlier, is that we can only communicate directly to customers who have booked on our website. So last year we had 22 million customer journeys, but only 23% of those are customers booking directly on lner.co.uk. So at the moment, that's the only group that my team and I, through our technology and communication capabilities, can reach out directly to. So we're working really hard to be able to enhance the digital communications that can be delivered to our customers. But one of our key challenges is how can we reach more of those customers who are travelling on our train line every single day, but we don't have that direct relationship with. Our second challenge is how can we make those communications even more personalised than they already are. So my challenge out to the group today is for anyone that can help us with how we can communicate to passengers who are on our trains and in our stations in a way that is contextualised to their location at that moment in time. For our direct booking customers, we know for most of them where they've chosen a select service, we know which train they plan to travel on, but people's plans change. For those customers that have open tickets, flexible tickets, we don't know which service they're going to be travelling on. And for customers that have booked at the station or on other ticket retailing sites, we don't know who they are and we don't know when they plan to travel. So we're already thinking long and hard internally about how we can reach out to more customers who are travelling with LNER every single day and how we can use technology in the moment to understand more about that customer's location, so that things like LNER Assistant can reach more customers and help more customers have personalised contextual information about their journey to empower them to make decisions and receive the best possible experience. So I'd love to welcome any questions that anyone has right now. And also, if you think of more questions later on, please feel free to submit them and I can come back to you. And for anyone that does have a bright idea as to how we can solve this challenge, I would love for you to submit your response back to the organisers. I'm going to ask for a maximum of one A4 page or one slide. If you can say who you are, what you do, and how you think you could help us solve this problem, I would love to hear from you. And those of them that we think are viable for us to explore further, I'll take forward into the digital innovation team, and we will reach out to you to see if there are opportunities for collaboration so that you can help us solve this challenge. So I'll open up to any questions that we may have.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant, Claire. Thank you so much. That's absolutely fantastic, Claire. Thank you so much. It was a great presentation, great insight. And also a perfect challenge, nice and concise. Really absolutely love that indeed. What I like there as well, you're sticking to one source of the truth, which is so important. In the past, passenger experience has been that what they get told depends on who they're listening to at that time. Is it the train operator or network rail and everything? So I'm just looking at some of the questions coming up. Alex Brain thinks that there's a tension between getting a personalised experience through LNER and having an integrated, joined-up railway for every passenger. So I guess what he's asking there is, how do train operators work together to perhaps pass people across so that contextualised information can actually travel with them along their journey to their destination? Have you thought about that angle?
That's a great question, and you're absolutely right there. I think you said it was Alex that submitted the question. Absolutely right that it is a challenge that we have in the railway industry, because at the moment the data, depending on where you've bought your ticket and who you're travelling with, is currently quite siloed in the rail industry. It is something we are trying to collaborate on and we're trying to challenge, but it is quite a traditional model in terms of where data is held, and so it is something we're challenging and we're trying to move forward. Within my team, the approach that we're taking is if we can deliver really smart technology and demonstrate the added value it has to the customer, then that's a great step forward to be able to collaborate with other train operators, with the Department for Transport, and really champion the benefit of being able to have visibility of customers travelling between different train operators and expanding that even broader between different transport modes. So we would absolutely love to be able to provide a personalised experience, for example, for someone travelling from London to Newcastle who's perhaps using the underground, our train, and then the metro in Newcastle. So for us, it's about starting small with proof of concepts, innovating and proving that the innovation works, and then taking that out to be able to open up the conversation with others.
That's fine. Thank you, Claire. That's a really good answer. And I think another question here from Steve Roberts asks about using digital partners to share information with digital partners. So again, I guess he's thinking about exchanging information and moving the customer along with perhaps, I don't know, retail premises or something, or other transport providers. And we're going to talk about mobility as a service later in the week. So how we kind of hand a customer backwards and forwards, yes, within their rail journey, but then within other things they might interact with, which is part of their day. And we want rail to be such an inherent built-in part of their day. So any looks there at other partners across other parts of the sector, other transport modes, for example?
I think it's really interesting. Obviously, people are already getting very creative around what the responses could be to create the ideal customer experience. I mean, for us, the world is our oyster in terms of how we're trying to improve the experience that our passengers and our customers have with us. For me, even if you look at the area that's within our stations, there's a lot of different experiences the customer has there. So for example, someone wanting passenger assistance. At the moment, that data is again held completely separately to where your booking data is held. So one of the things we're working on is how can we bring as much of that data together in a centralized place so we have one view of the customer, one source of truth in terms of a delay, a cancellation, what's gone wrong, what have we done well, what net promoter scores are our customers giving us, and what are their comments. So we are on a journey to be able to enhance our data infrastructure so that we can bring data together to have a centralized source of the truth, and then really use that to provide the best possible customer experience we can. So yeah, if these people have ideas as to how we can continue to enhance that, we are certainly open to hear them in people's responses.
Well, we will share everything with you, Claire, and we did promise your colleague Mark Petman when he volunteered you to do this, which is an inspired choice, I have to say. But we did promise him that we would aggregate responses from industry so that you didn't get individually overwhelmed. So somebody was asking how they can contact you and so on. The answer is through RIA, and anybody who's expressed interest in contacting you through the questions, we'll aggregate those and we'll pass them on, probably through Mark, since he signed you up. Okay, one last question then from Ali Najimi. What percentage of your customers are everyday commuters? Because he thinks if somebody was only traveling 5 or 6 times a year for business or for leisure, that they maybe wouldn't be bothered to download the apps and chatbots. Could the 22% of your people who use digital tools at the moment be representing the repeating daily commuters? And therefore you've reached the peak for penetration into that market?
Another great question, absolutely. I don't know the stats off the top of my head right now in terms of how our bookings are made up in terms of proportions, but you're absolutely right that we do have a pocket of commuters who are travelling with us very frequently. But when we look at our customer database that we have of direct bookings, the average journey frequency is between 2 and 3 times a year for most of our customers. So you're right that which digital technology to invest in is a key decision to make. And one of the reasons why we are using partners that open us up to things like Facebook Messenger is that we are starting to explore how we can integrate that when people are searching for journeys but not necessarily booking directly with us. Obviously, people who are booking through travel management companies or have their ticket booked by someone else for them, they may not be able to sign up directly when they're booking their ticket. So trying to open up so that customers booking in any channel can have our communications directly from us is one of our key priorities. So you're absolutely right, understanding the demographic of our customers, which channels they want to be communicated on, that differs massively depending on people's own personal preferences, and also how frequently they're traveling with us. And that's where the earlier question of if we can provide an integrated response as an industry, that would be incredible. So for us, it's starting with our line and our customers that we can communicate directly to, and then seeing how we can broaden it out. But my key question around location based, for us, that's one of the really interesting challenges to answer at the moment. How can we know where a customer is in the moment if they want to share that information with us, and how can we use that to provide a personalized experience based on what we think they might need in that moment?
That's absolutely brilliant, Claire. Thank you so much, and again for that challenge as well. And we will share the answers we get from delegates and others with you. And hopefully we find some things that are actually going to help you move forward. But it's a great aspiration, and it's really a great part of moving our industry forward by actually thinking about the people who pay the bills and looking after them. That's really so important. So thank you very much. If you can join us for the Q&A at the end, you're very, very welcome. So it's very rare somebody gets their meeting cancelled, but I hope your next meeting is cancelled and you can rejoin us.
Me too, there's still time. Thank you very much, Richard. I really look forward to reviewing people's responses.
Great, we'll see you soon. Thanks for your input today. So, great challenge to start the day with, and our next speaker is going to look at something that's available to help you if you're already chewing over solutions to Claire's problem. Dr. John Easton from Birmingham Centre for Rail Research and Education, part of the UKRRIN network, the UK Rail Research and Innovation Network, which these events are at least in part here to support. John is going to tell us about their work on an industry data research platform. So John, over to you.
Thanks very much, Richard. Good afternoon, everybody. So as Richard said, my name is John Easton. I'm one of the lecturing staff with the School of Engineering at the University of Birmingham, and I'm also the data lead for the Centre of Excellence in Digital Systems as part of UKRRIN. And for those of you who don't know about UKRRIN, we'll get to what that is in a second. Sorry, I'm just waiting for the slide to advance.
Yeah, it can be a little bit slow, John, but usually 2 or 3 seconds does it. Are you using right and left arrow buttons?
I am. Oh, there we go. There we go. Oh, yeah. Sorry, just a bit of a lag. Right, we're there. So I wanted to start by just doing a bit of asking a bit of a question and saying, where do we think the rail data is in 2020? Now, bear in mind that I'm an academic, so when I think about this, I'm not so much thinking about data within the industry, but I'm thinking about data that's available to groups around the industry who are there to support the industry, and people who perhaps are slightly outside of the core group. So we're in a situation where we're now, just shy of 10 years on from the rail value for money study. And I bring the rail value for money study up because that was very much a watershed moment, I think, for railway data. So for those of you from outside of the industry, the rail value for money study was a study by Roy McNulty on part of the ORR, and it was quite frankly rather critical of the state of the industry's information systems as they were in sort of 2010, 2011. And it went as far as to say that the state of those information systems was really inhibiting the industry's ability to do business effectively. Since then, I think it's certainly fair to say that we've seen huge improvements in the vision for data handling and for making data available from the industry. And you see quite commonly now when you go to industry meetings, people thinking about how data can be made available, what value that data might have in terms of delivering the day-to-day operations of the industry, but also generating other sources of revenue for the industry. And there's a number of groups that have been set up that now look at these questions. And we've taken, as an industry, a number of practical steps, I think, towards what would be regarded in most industries as a modern approach to handling data. So we see, for example, interoperable data models being developed, which are specifically for rail and for connecting data from rail with data from other transport modes as part of a multimodal system. We see formal metadata being developed for the information sources that are available. We've also seen an increase in the amount of data that's being made available to the industry. And of course, there are various key players in that, people like Network Rail and the Rail Delivery Group, who provide that data via open APIs for anyone who's registered with those services. We've seen on the part of RSSB the formation of a Data and Information System Interface Committee, or DISIC. And what these groups do, really, they work on the interface between key topical areas for the industry. So, for example, there's a systems interface committee that looks at the interaction between the vehicles and the infrastructure, and they work to help facilitate the establishment of standards to ensure that those processes work smoothly and effectively to the benefit of the whole industry. We are also seeing the Rail Data Council delivering on the data pillar of the rail sector deal, which is interesting work. And we're seeing increased funding in this area for research, and that's through both national and international bodies. So we're seeing funding becoming available for data-based projects from Network Rail, from RSSB, from the wider supply chain, so companies like Siemens and Thales, and also through the EU, and particularly through the EU Shift to Rail programme. There are still, however, some open challenges that we need to address. Oh, hello. There we go. So access to data is still very much project-based. So if Network Rail want to commission a piece of research work, then we tend to negotiate with the relevant people in Network Rail for access to the data that we need to deliver that piece of work, and we have it available to us as a snapshot at the moment we delivered the piece of research, and that's not ideal for a lot of reasons. It makes it very difficult to deliver blue sky research, so things that perhaps the industry doesn't know it needs yet, that we could be investigating in the background as something that we find interesting, and potentially opening new avenues for research more quickly. It makes it very difficult to plan programs of research where we want to take an idea and then continuously develop it over a long period of time beyond the scope of something that can be easily funded as a single unit. And it poses a lot of challenges for repeatability in research. So one of the things that we really look for as a mark of quality, if you're an academic group, is this idea that someone else can go away and repeat your work and get the same results, and thus validate what it is you've done. And if you're using snapshots of data that were made available at different times, or perhaps aren't available anymore post the end of the project, then proving that repeatability is very difficult. We also quite naturally have a situation where the coverage of the data that's currently available is often determined by individual business cases. And of course, we all know that data has a cost associated with it, storage, provision, transfer, all those things. But gaps in the availability of data make system level analysis very difficult to perform. So there's definitely a challenge from the coverage point of view there. And there's also an issue in terms of coverage in that there's a poor understanding from those outside the industry of what data is maybe available, and that signposting perhaps isn't there. There is a problem around data preparation and data cleaning, and for those of you who work in data science and in machine learning, it'll come as no shock to you that around 80% maybe of most machine learning projects are actually nothing to do with the machine learning algorithms itself and deploying the machine learning algorithms. It's to do with preparing the data. And if you're making the data available on a project by project basis, then you're having to do that data cleaning job every single time, and that adds an awful lot of time, an awful lot of effort, an awful lot of cost to each individual project. There's also the issue where commercial confidentiality can be a blocker to innovation, and that really is an interesting one, because obviously it's possible, if there is a demonstrable benefit to opening data, to come to commercial arrangements around sharing things. But if you can't access the data in order to prove that there's a benefit there, then you can't make the business case to open it more widely, which is, it's an interesting sort of a chicken and an egg situation that I know the industry's been wrestling with for a number of years. So the question that we're trying to answer then really is, how can we better exploit the data that we have available to us as an industry? So very quickly, for those of you who are unfamiliar with UKRRIN, so UKRRIN is the UK Rail Research and Innovation Network, and it's a £92 million collaboration between industry, academia and government. So the network runs over 10 years. The company logos on the right there are what we call our founding industry partners. So that was the initial group of sort of supply chain companies who are involved, but there's a much wider group now who are part of the network and involved. We are made up of a network of 4 centres of excellence, of which digital systems is led by the University of Birmingham, and that really is focusing on topics such as traffic management, condition monitoring, and the improved use of data and cybersecurity, which is the area that I lead and the area that the Rail Data Platform comes under. So what am I here to talk about today? So I'm here to talk about the Rail Research Data Platform, as we're calling it. And this is a cross-industry platform designed to support data-led research. So this is about trialing new ideas. It's not about delivering new products. It's intended for the analysis of large and streaming data sets that we've taken from across the industry, and they're being provided by the UKRRIN partner organisations. Now, the advantages here are that because this is for research use, we're getting around some of the usual commercial barriers that you would have, and we're getting these data sets together for the first time in one place. It's based on a commercial technology stack. That's something provided by our partners at Zipabout and KX, and that means that it's not something that's purely an academic activity. It's something that is going to be repeatable by the industry should it choose to do so going forward. And it also means that what we're doing is really the bit that we're good at. It's the thinking rather than trying to maintain the technology. What we're not doing is we're not trying to replace things that are already existing within the industry. So this is supposed to be complementary to existing resources. It's not an alternative channel to get access to resources that are already provided by Network Rail or RDG or something like that. There's a lot of work going on funded by other mechanisms which is already working on developing those resources. And it's also not a public sandbox. So RSSB provide a sandbox where you can download snapshots of data sets to see what those data sets look like. What we're looking at here really is a very large repository of data sets at scale, which is designed for doing machine learning. And it's not there so you can download things from that data, from that sandbox, from that platform. That has huge costs associated with it, and it's not what we're there to do with. So you work with the data within the platform to help you do whole system type analysis jobs. How do people work with this platform? So as I said, the data is intended primarily for use within the platform, and there are various good reasons for that, to do with the speed at which you can work with the data, the scale of the data involved, and the costs associated with transferring it in and out of the platform. It's a cloud-based platform, so there are charges associated with uploads and downloads of data. This is also because we want to understand how the data is being accessed and used, and that's because this data is being contributed for research use and use in research projects. It's not being contributed for commercial use, and that's part of the deal we have with our partners when they provide the data sets. It's also managed that way because within the platform, we're providing librarian support who that person can help you find the right data sets at the right resolution in the right time frame for the job that you're trying to do, and they can only do that within the confines of our platform, obviously. Interaction with the platform is done via scripts, although there is a visual environment available, and if you're not a data science person, we're also providing analysis as a service So if you come to us with your problems, we'd be very happy to help you with those. Governance is tiered, so the way this works is the UKRRIN partners are providing data sets to us, but they're doing that at one of several levels, and depending on which level of availability they're providing us with the data, we can provide access to UKRRIN organisations and other organisations on that basis. So the most open tier is data provided for all rail research within the GB system, but we do go right down to provision of data sets purely for use with UKRRIN in projects where that provider is involved, and that's for the very commercially sensitive stuff. Example of what the platform can do for rail. So in this case, I'm going to talk about a project that's funded under RSSB's Data Sandbox funding stream. That's led by Zupabout, is using the same technology stack. And what we've done in this project is we've been working on delay prediction in real time using what we call a random forest model. That model is an ensemble approach, it's a machine learning approach, which is basically learning how late services arrive at stations based on historical movement data, and then it's giving us predictions in real time on the day. We're then looking at using those delay predictions to generate tailored messaging for passengers, and we're looking at the appropriate forms of that messaging and the impact of things like resolution of the predictions on the effectiveness of the messaging. And we're actually moving for a part of the project, we're working on demonstrating that and trialing that alongside LNER. So how do you get involved? As I said, access to the platform is initially available as part of UKRRIN project, so you need to join UKRRIN formally to get involved with this at this stage. There's information on how you work with UKRRIN available on the UKRRIN website, and as a shameless plug, I've got the link in there. But I just want to leave you with an open question, which really is, for all of you, how do you think you might use a resource like the Rail Research Data Platform? What data do you think we need to have available to help us with our planning? And what might your organisation be able to contribute to the platform going forward? Feel free to get in touch, either speak to me directly via that email address or contact RIA, as Richard was saying earlier, and I'm sure that'd be a great way to get questions through as well.
John, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Really useful facility there. Shares will be, the slides will be shared and available for download by one mechanism or another, and we'll make that clear by the end of the meeting. If people can keep pinging their questions in, we'll roll those up and we'll talk about them at the end of the session. So now on to our SME elevator pitches. These are pretty brief, but they should hopefully give you a flavour of what these people are up to. We're going to start with Black Box. Oh, no, we're going to start with Liam Henderson and Watch My Train. Liam's a really accomplished presenter, so we can expect something great. No pressure, Liam. Are you okay? You've not got your camera on at the moment, Liam.
Here now?
Great. It's over to you then, Liam. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks. Now I understand I have 3 minutes, so I'll try and be quick. Normally I gesticulate in front of a big screen, so you'll be able to see my hands, but I'll try it this way. Right. So I'm here to tell you about Watch My Train, which is the first dedicated the first dedicated Apple Watch-based train departure tool. We chose Apple because that's the most common wearable device, and it's the one that you can do most with. And as of last year, you're able to develop native products just on watches, so you can take advantage of the much greater functionality. I'm sure it's there on my screen at the moment. So, Watch My Train. I did click right.
I think you have to do that yourself, Liam, unless Milda's still got control.
There we go. Right, Watch My Train. Imagine the scenario, you're walking up to the train station, you can pull out your Apple Watch and simply scroll through the departures for the train, for the station that you're going towards. But what we do is pull the feed from National Rail Inquiries, and we enhance the information with other data sources and our own engine to be able to tell you what's going to be on the services you're coming towards. So if you're walking to your local station and you see that there's an intercity train coming in and a commuter train, you can choose whether you want the intercity level of service, because we show you a little picture. We show you how long it is. We can show you if there's a bar or a power source, or if you need to reserve a bike. But the information we can show you is affected somewhat. Again, press turn right. There we go. The information we can show you is what is relevant to this presentation, I guess, because the themes that we've been talking about are passenger information, accessible journeys, disruption, and inclusion. We can show you on this medium all of that information, but we struggle with the data feeds to be able to show it consistently across networks. So we can show you very rich, enhanced information where National Rail inquiries can give us, for example, train length. And TOCs tend to turn that information on and off depending on their own commercials. So whilst the tool is there for us to be able to empower customers and staff, we have instead, slightly again against the theme of this, but we're trying to have a single source of truth, but what we've had to do is develop our own feeds. So we are actually now showing you enhanced information that we know because we've developed an engine, but the rail industry itself doesn't have that information feed. So that Watch My Train is available online. It's free. You can just download it from the App Store, and we'd welcome your feedback. But what we've been busy developing in the background is a platform watch to empower staff at stations with the same information, because what we started to see is that people are going up with their watch saying, well, I know information about the next train, and the staff on the platform don't know that information because they, one, are only using the National Rail feeds and whatever's on the board. Equally, quite a lot of train operating companies don't let staff use devices within a few minutes of the train departing. So what we've done is allowed them to, at a glance, just see a calendar of their platform, all the departures coming through. And again, if the feeds exist, you can then see how many people need assistance on and off the train. Again, all of this stuff we can do if the feeds exist. And I think there's one of the following presenters does that. So again, we've been busy doing that. Next slide. What we've done is empowered onboard staff to go tap, 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 speak, send, and minimize their efforts. So if you want to delay report, if you want to see information about the next departure coming and the next stations, again, we can do anything you want if the information feeds are there. And download it from the App Store.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Liam. It's such an original idea, and I love the way you're extending it all the time. And do you know what? If I buy a very expensive season ticket, which mine is, I'd expect my train operator to give me a watch with your software on it. There's a partnership for you. Let's go and do that. So Milda, So thank you, Liam. That's fantastic.
All right, I'm going to go on mute now.
Really pleased to see you developing that idea because it's worth running with.
Thank you.
So Milda, have we got Mark next? Okay.
Hi,
So
good afternoon, Richard.
And Mark Bird. Mark.
Hi, so my name's Mark. I'm from a company called Black Box. We are relatively new to rail. We've been working rail for the last 4 years. We describe ourselves as a cloud-first technology business. Our background is we were working in transportation predominantly in the airport sector for nearly 15 to 20 years. And what we tried to do is to bring our experience of working in airport type environments with information into the rail environment. We have worked exclusively with a number of operators initially and have recently broadened that out. We are a digital customer information DCI framework partner for Abellio, working with a large number of their TOCs. And we've also done quite an innovative piece of work with Arriva Rail London around a Wonderwall project. And the piece of work I'm going to talk to you about today actually comes off the back of a piece of work that we did with Wonderwall. And the question that we had been asked, next slide, please, is to do with the challenges that a lot of our TOCs have been facing in terms of information on special notice boards, particularly at stations, that either are part of a daily update, i.e. handwritten, they're a planned piece of work, or they're an emergency. And we've seen in recent months the demand for this. And the challenge that we were asked to do is there a way in which we could deliver a piece of digital technology that was lightweight, easy to use, and could be quickly deployed, that one, could help passengers get information more quickly, and two, standardize the information that's being presented to the passengers, and three, and probably the most important thing, is something that was very easy and simple to deploy. And one of the key questions that we had been asked was around mitigating failures with existing customer information systems, which a lot of our operators get fined for. So we started thinking about this in a slightly different way. Next slide, please. And we said, well, rather than looking at traditional technologies, what technologies are available that we could use that are lightweight, that are innovative, and we could deploy in a very lightweight package. So we collaborated with two organizations, one from the US called e-ink and another organization in the UK called Technoframe. And we started to look at a product called e-ink, which many of you who use a Kindle will be familiar with. And this technology had been deployed quite successfully into bus environments. And we thought, do you know what, we can potentially deploy this into a rail environment using our single source of truth cloud platform, which we've been developing with a number of talks, and which kind of provides this ability to provide ingested, enriched, and fed information. Next slide, please. So the output from this was to create a piece of technology that could be assembled potentially by one person, that could be carried in the back of a car, that was lightweight, low energy, ideally battery powered, dealt with real-time information, could be connected to a Wi-Fi or a 3G network, and could be connected back to our control system. And it also needed to be read in direct sunlight and also at night. And we thought, wow, how on earth are we going to deal with this? And what we effectively did was we took an e-ink screen, which is a very large format of screen that we were able to find. We worked with both e-ink and Technoframe, and we developed a 32-inch totem. Next slide, please. This is being deployed across Arriva Rail London. Sorry, not deployed, it's just in a pilot stage with Arriva Rail London. And you can see the example on the left, which is the traditional handwritten board, and now this two-piece mobile totem that can be quickly deployed. And to give you a sense of how long the system works without power, it will operate at the moment for up to 7 weeks on battery, but we're hoping to extend that to over a year. It provides consistent passenger experiences because it's connected directly back to our control application. And more importantly, is it can be deployed very, very quickly, and again, mitigates potential fines and KPI penalties. Next slide, please. On the back of this, what we're hoping to do is to work with a number of other talks to take our first pilot product and make it bigger. So we're hoping to generate a 42-inch version of this, and effectively we have an ambition to replace every piece of paper-based information in all the stations with an e-ink type solution, which will give us a lot more flexibility. And we think that this will have a huge impact for supporting passengers and rail companies.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Mark. And if people want to get in touch with Mark, they can ask questions now, or they can come back to us at RIA afterwards, and we will put them in touch. So our final pitcher is Trans Report and Jay Shen. So Jay, I'm going to hand over to you, chap.
Cool. Hi everyone, it's Jay from Trans Report. So we are a technology company started in 2016, and for the last 4 years we've been focusing on the rail projects. One of our flagship project is focusing on the accessibility market. Can we move to the last slide? Is this, no, go back this, yeah, this one. Currently in the UK, there are around 40 million people have some form of disability or long-term illness, and there are 1.7 billion journeys are made by passengers having got disabilities, and that counts about 5% of all the rail passenger journeys every year. Yet there are very little we know about the requirement of disabled people when they're traveling. And also in the industry currently, there's a very legacy system that is not fit for purpose. So if we go to the next slide, please. So since 2018, we'll be working with RDG and the DFT and ORR on building a new platform to replacing the entire industry system. We call it Transport Passenger Assist. At the beginning, it was just an app, allow the passenger to book their assistance through a mobile phone. At the same time, the staff member will also have a staff version of the app to receive such information to enable better communication and also reducing the workload of the call center staff. Because currently, as a disabled passenger, when you travel, you have to call the talks. And now we're putting the power back to the passenger in their hand. And now this system being procured by the RDG and going to be rolled out this year to the entire industry. And in 2019, working on that, we run a couple of models with RDG, and we anticipate there's going to be a huge jump of passenger that start using the system, and we're encountering more and more disabled passengers or passengers who generally need support. For example, family traveling with a lot of children, or old passengers, or even foreigners or visitors traveling on the rail network. A lot more people are going to use the app because it's much easier to book their assistant. So there's going to be a resource and capacity issue for the station staff to cope with. So in 2019, our focus was on driven by the historical data and our predictive model. Then how do we inform talks at those stations so that we can predict how much demand is likely to generate, is going to be requested by the disabled passenger, and how the talk could support those surge in demand. One example is in April last year that there was an event at Birmingham NEC. It's called NADEC. It's one of the largest disabled people's conference. And over 3 days, the demand of assistant travel at Birmingham International Station just jumped by 500%, even more than that. And those information through the intelligent model will be able to predict and inform the talk beforehand, so can do the preparation. This year in 2020, we're working with the RSB, moving to, first of all, how do we using the data interrogate, how we make sure during delay and disruption, how do we pass those information to the passenger who needs assistance the most. I'm sure you can agree that when we travel on the rail and if the trains got canceled, delayed, it's quite annoying for us all. You can imagine that effect we're going to be amplified 100 times for a disabled passenger. So how do we make sure they are the ones we look after? But also at the same time, how do we compare from historical data so we can nudge the disabled passenger so they can travel on the service that is more reliable. At the same time, they are more likely to receive assistance on time. Can we move to the next slide, please? So our next step is that we're going to roll out this entire system with RDG this year, but also we understand the different talks will have a different requirement. For LNER, probably most of the passengers, 30% level will be leisure traveler, and some of them are commuters. And for West Midland trains, majority of their passengers are commuters. So different talk would have a different sort of requirement, and our system is quite flexible. We can customize this according to individual talks need. So if you do have a requirement, feel free to talk to us. We're also expanding to the international market. We're currently having a conversation with Australian government as well as the Japanese government. So how to expand this not just in UK but also outside Europe. We're also looking to incorporate different form of transportation such as taxi. Because a lot of stations, if it's an on-staff station or not accessible, then the talk would have actually obligation to transfer that passenger from the on-staff station or unaccessible station to a nearest accessible station, either by taxi, most likely be by taxi, and also integrated with other transport modes such as London Underground. And also we're going to generate a lot of data, probably about a couple of million passenger data every year, and I'm more than happy to share and collaborate with other companies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jay. That's great, and thoroughly agree that even if disabled people, whether that's a visible disability or not, are 5% of our customers, then we certainly can't afford to ignore their input. It's really important to them as well, travel and rail. So, yeah, question and answer. Milda, if I can have all the speakers back who are around, please. And first question really from Peter Hicks, who says, I guess it's probably John Easton to answer this one. The industry seems to be very slow and nervous about releasing data openly. Is anyone working on a platform that's easily extended to encourage industry bodies to release data without worrying about hosting it? And if not, does somebody need to just do that?
Yes, so absolutely the industry is thinking about it. So this is one of the things that came up in the sector deal, and it's one of the things that the Rail Data Council is actively looking at. Of the 4 working groups in that, the first 2 are really about access to data and models for data, and working group 1 in particular is at the moment looking at how we can be making more data available in the very near future. So I think the answer on that one is watch this space.
Okay. Jay, I think a question addressed to you about interfacing with other systems and also making your system geographically aware, location aware. Have you looked at those 2 angles?
Yes. So first of all, second question about the geolocation. So in the passenger app, we do have a form of tracking passenger location, as well as the staff member can log passenger travel patterns. So knowing passenger location is one of the fundamental capabilities within our system, because it's the key to the RDG and the key to the industry. As well, for us to understand the travel pattern behavior and their movement is very important for us as well. To be able to integrate with other systems 100%, we're already talking to a few talks in terms of integrating with their CRM system, as well as their staff scheduling systems. So yeah, we're more than open to do that. We try to do, because working with the rail, we understand that many train companies, their system they use quite old legacy system, and there's no standardized API or form of integration. Some of them use SOAP, some use API, some of the flat file. So we try to have a holistic approach that we try to accommodate the talks need. If they want the data transferred into the system, we will try to customize and build a link. Yeah.
Okay, what we're going to do is going to do a question around the panel. That'll allow us to finish at 3 o'clock on time. If anybody wants to hang on, I hope all the panel can hang on. If any delegates want to hang on, then you're welcome to do so, and we'll continue the Q&A a little bit after that, because you're a little bit late coming into the Q&A. So the question for all of you to think about, and we'll perhaps start with, oh, fantastic, Claire, you're back, brilliant.
I've been here the whole time, actually, Richard, so I've heard all the presentations.
All right, that's excellent news. What can Network Rail do to help in improving the passenger service here? Is it sharing data? Is it working better with the train operators? What is it that's going to help? So Claire, should we start with you?
I think that's a massive question. Huge question. I mean, for me, the collaboration of Network Rail and all the train operators, I think, is a conversation that could take us many hours to agree where's the main area to focus. I think in LNER, we are working heavily on partnerships across the rail industry and focusing on areas where collaboration can provide quick wins for the industry. So for us, from an operations perspective, being able to collaborate on running a safe, on-time railway for us is probably the priority area in that space at the moment. And so where us as a digital and innovation team are trying to enable that is how can we use things like data science to be able to provide predictive decisioning to help help the service delivery teams to make decisions in the moment, and really opening up that collaboration for how we can all be making decisions that are data driven, that are real time, and then how we can take that information and push it out to our customers and our frontline staff to enable people to have as smooth a journey as possible, regardless of what performance challenges we may be having on the railway. But if whoever submitted that question or anyone else does have any specific ideas, an outsider, fresh perspective is always really helpful, because we can quite often get lost in our own little worlds and what we're working on. So please do feel free to submit an idea back with your challenges in terms of how we can be improving the experience across the whole industry.
Yeah, okay. It was actually Richard Dobbs, and I suspect that Richard works for Network Rail, so it was probably in the spirit of openness and generosity. Let's play it that way.
Brilliant.
John Easton, what more could Network Rail do in terms of sharing data to make a better experience for passengers?
Yeah, so like most of these things, I know Network Rail are thinking about this and are already working towards this. So this is a bit of a cheat of an answer, but really, as the only sort of organisation in the industry that's looking across the network as a whole, what Network Rail I think most usefully focus on is provision of data, for example, that describes the whole infrastructure of the UK, but providing that data in a consistent form and a consistent level of accuracy across the whole network. So the supply chain will go away and take that data and turn it into things that will support passengers, but they need to understand how accurate that data is and what it is they're working with to be able to do it effectively.
So you're the middleman, John. Let's hear from the supply chain. Mark Bird. We need some microphone, Mark, please.
Yeah, sorry. I think for me, one of the biggest things that Network Rail could do is to create a safe environment for real agile and young and innovative businesses to try ideas and in some instances fail. I think that often what happens is that we spend a lot of time trying to work out the governance process and all the things that need to happen to make sure projects are delivered on time and on budget. And actually what we need is agility. And we need innovation, and innovation comes through making mistakes, through being agile. So I think Network Rail need to create safe places to allow young, innovative companies to experiment and to try different things and to see what happens and to encourage that. And I think that from that, you'll get some really exciting innovation, which then can actually be scaled in a way that makes a big difference for passengers.
Great, thank you, Mark. And if we go on then to Jay.
Can I possibly just pitch in there on that one, because I think Mark's a really interesting one actually, and I'm newer into the innovation space, so I've come more from a marketing and comms background and have been working in the digital team since we set it up last year. And a couple of the forums that I've become more aware of recently are the First of a Kind competition and also Innovate UK. And actually my team has become a partner for one of the Innovate UK projects, which we just did the Innovate UK end of proof of concept demonstration last week. And I've actually personally found that a really interesting way to be able to be opened up to new partner opportunities, and it's one that we're exploring to see if we can operationalize it and bring it into business as usual. So if anyone, given me being new to this space really, I'm just a year in, if anyone has found partnership opportunities like that are interesting, or any that you guys know about that you're already involved in, I think the more they can be in a centralized place that are really easy both for TOCs and for SMEs and innovators to be able to access and see what sort of problems to be solved and opportunities are out there, would be great.
Yeah, it's a good spot, Claire. It is one of the key mechanisms. The First of a Kind competition repeats each year, or it has done now for 4 years in a row. The budget is 30 to 40 million pounds a year, but split quite widely among quite a large number of projects. So it doesn't a lot of companies to get through to that trial stage, and that proof of concept, it actually carries a lot of weight in rail. So Jay, just to take you back then to the question about what more you feel Network Rail could do to help.
I think on that topic, I agree completely with Mark that because we've been working with RDG quite closely, so we heard about a lot of stories from the talks. Yet Network Rail actually accounts for about 35% of all the assistance delivered in the UK when it comes to rail travel, and we hear very little from Network Rail. That is because RDG don't represent Network Rail, they need to be partner of this project. So I think to get them more involved into the to my project in terms of the passenger access and things more related to customer experience rather than infrastructure will be really helpful for my business. And speaking of the InnovUK projects, yeah, it was a great opportunity for all the projects we listed has actually been funded by InnovUK and the RSSB. So to Mark, I mean, the InnovUK first of kind competition is really a great tool for young technology to get started. That's how we started in 2018. Yeah, just keep your eyes on it.
I think, to be fair, as a business, we've been successful on 3 Innovate programs. And the reason I talk about it is because our business is the business today. We're dealing with 3 of the biggest TOCs in the UK. And it came from that early investment and that willingness for someone to take a risk with us 4 years ago in that innovative, agile fashion. And that's what I would really encourage. And that's why I say to Network Rail, there are lots of companies like us that want to do that type of work, and you can be successful off the back of it, which is brilliant.
Well, thank you very much, folks. We're going to wrap the formal bit there, but if you've got 5 or 10 minutes and you want to carry on with a couple of questions, we've actually got a flood of questions in. Just want to point out a few things to people before they leave, delegates. There's now a handouts tab in your grey box at the top right corner of your screen. If you pull that down, you'll see the 5 presentations you've seen today. They're available for download, but they'll also be on the riagb.org.uk website under the innovation area later. Access to the innovation area of our website is free and it's open to everyone, whether you're a member or not. Some of the benefits of membership include a weekly roundup of innovation funding opportunities in our Tech Talk newsletter. So every week we tell you about what funded competitions are available. And we've heard about some today, Shift to Rail, Innovate UK and so on. We track all those and we give you the best chance of getting in as early as possible. There'll be mailed out to you a link to the video recording of the event in about 24 hours. And if you're able to join us later in the week for the events I described on mobility as a service, better rail freight and a better transport system for Leeds, you're very welcome to join us. So which speakers can hang on, that would be great. And we'll just carry on with a question or two. Gavin Russell says, could the existing customer information system advertise the benefits of registering for personal alerts? That's using current technology to bridge to new technology. Sorry, it's for Claire. We can't hear you, Claire.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think using the customer information screens is a great idea. We've actually got a review underway at the moment, a new project in terms of how we see customer information screens evolving over time. And I've also been looking to some other countries to be able to see how they're really progressing the use of customer information screens and how it can interact with your own devices and provide even more information should you want to dig into it. So yeah, I think definitely a great idea as to how we can really broaden the reach of personalised information. Oh, I think you're on mute now, Richard.
Richard's muted now.
Got me in the end. One questioner who was interested in your business model, Liam, I know you've answered it in text, but it kind of applies perhaps to lots of other SMEs, how they can monetize projects in rail. What do you see as the channels to monetization of your work, Liam?
Subscription model, really, because then you don't need the upfront investment from the TOC. The TOC doesn't need to make a big capital investment. They can see the benefits and sort of organically expand across the network. Particularly for the watch-based, you can start at one station and then go bigger and bigger. And that also is better for the smaller SME because they can sort of manage their growth rather than committing to doing 400 stations at one go.
Yeah, I can see that, absolutely. It requires some work on the station, are you saying then, or?
No, the watch-based solution, not at all. You just need to buy the watches and buy a phone that they all tether to, and you're good to go. Easy. Anyone want to buy it? You're more than welcome to.
But we did get somebody who's asked for a connection with you, and we will put them in touch immediately afterwards, Liam, so you can pursue those discussions on a one-to-one basis. So really pleased to get a link on that going for you. Okay. John, something I think you said in your talk, but it someone's asked a question about it. Is RRDP commercial use only, or are you planning to extend it for other purposes?
So it's specifically research based activity. So non-commercial activities, exactly. So not business as usual, and initially this is going to be through UKRRIN projects while we sort out the governance, basically, so we understand what the data is being used for, and we can make sure that we with a straight face tell the partners who are supplying the data sets what it is their data is being used for and on. I say that that's research use only. It is for use in research projects, but of course a lot of the UKRRIN partners are by their very nature industrial partners. So that doesn't stop you if you're a company commissioning a research project, that's fine, but it's not something that's intended to drive commercial systems.
Okay, really interesting question, which we could probably do as a panel question to just wash up then. Kevin Stringer asks, the biggest opportunities could be centered around alternative journey planning in the event of disruption, which we know is a real pain point for customers. This would need to be a mass-based system, so end-to-end journey, which would look at all forms of alternative transport, e.g. rail, bus, air and taxi, so comparative diversionary routes. This information isn't readily available to passengers right now, but it would be invaluable. Certainly where you've got an end-to-end journey to make and rail has stopped for whatever reason, as any other mode could, you know, all I want to know is how do I get my journey forward? So what do we think is going to work in that situation, Jay?
Well, that's $1 million question, isn't it? Like, I'm gonna make sure. I mean, we're currently working with Google and to figure out how do we make sure the multimodal transport sector is incorporated into one. And for us, for Transreport, we have a unique challenge that we also need to take into consideration that individuals' requirements, especially our target audience, are the people with disabilities. So it becomes even more difficult. However, on the other hand, because those people has a unique requirement, that actually limited the alternatives. For example, if the train stop at a certain station is not accessible, then there was no bus to another station, so the only option is taxi. So for us, the computing a model that works for disabled people is, in a strange way, is relatively easy, and that's exactly the things we're doing. We did with a FAC 3 last year. We currently were trying to expand that model from a disabled passenger perspective to a more able-bodied or normal passenger. But there's a lot of challenges because, you know, they can take different form of transportation. I think our starting point is working from a local region. We didn't start with London because London will be way too complicated. We started with West Midland. We started with Birmingham. Use Birmingham as a center. You got trams, you got buses, you got taxis. It's actually easier for us to compute a small model to just prove a concept. I think probably that's the way for any company looking at this. Yeah.
Thank you, Jay. With respect to our panel and wanting to finish somewhere near on time, I'm just going to guillotine this now to Claire. Claire, do you care about your customers so much that you'd actually recommend they move to a different transport mode altogether to finish their journey?
I think in times of mass disruption, we know we have to get creative, and sometimes the mode of transport is completely out of our control. You know, when we have the huge storms, the winter snow come in, sometimes we are physically unable due to the power of nature to move customers up and down our route. So I think in those scenarios, the more joined up and a simple response we can provide to customers to help get them home or get them to wherever they're trying to get to, the better it will be for customers, and also the more confidence they will have in public transport, and having the confidence that it can get them home when they need to.
Indeed. I look forward to consulting my watch and finding out where the nearest snowmobile is. So thank you very much, Jay, Mark, John, Claire and Liam, and to my colleagues, David and Milda. You can download the presentations now. We'll leave the conference open for a few minutes. You can download the handouts. You can get them from the RRIA website. We'll send you a link to the video recording, and we'll pass on any remaining Q&As that we've not covered. Thank you, everybody, so much for participating. Thanks for a really active debate as well. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.